All right, let me ask you you guys a few questions. Okay, Alex,
Right.
this is question I want to start with you. Now, the difference I always want to ask you, the difference between the Russian Orthodox Church and the Greek Orthodox Church, are they closely connected? Am I right that they are closely connected? Is that right?
Yeah, they're Orthodox churches. Yeah, but
It's
but
it's
each
more or
but
less they are the same church, right? It just one is based in Russia, one is based in Greece. Is that right?
no, the way the way the Orthodox religion works is that you don't have one central authority in the Pope.
Okay.
So there's many different patriarchies, and you have the Serbian, Russian, and the Cypriot, the Greek, Bulgaria.
Mhm.
So you have a different patriarchies, and all the churches. They're equals. I forgot the phrase. What's the phrase, Alexander? There's the Patriarch of Constantinople, who's
He's the
considered to be,
ecumenical patriarch.
yeah, but
He's the senior one.
he's the
He's the
senior
senior.
among equals. So
Yes.
there
Okay.
is one patriarch who's they're all equals, but he's seen as probably the most important of the equals. But
Okay.
each church is its own
Yeah.
body
Uh-huh.
within the greater Orthodox religion.
Okay.
And so there
Okay.
are small differences in the liturgy between the Russian and the Greek. For example, the Russian Orthodox Church, I'll give you some small examples.
Uh-huh.
Women, when they go into the liturgy, they still have to wear a headscarf. They have to cover their head. Where in the
Uh-huh.
Greek Orthodox, they don't have that anymore. In the Russian Orthodox Church, there are no seats to
Okay.
sit down for the
Okay.
most part. In the Greek Orthodox Church, they decided to add seats. They're small differences
Okay.
um, between the churches,
Yeah.
but it's
The,
still
the
all part of the Orthodox religion.
Yeah, the reason I ask you is this that the Ukrainians they have been put one Orthodox Church leader under house arrest, and recently, I mean, last October, I believe the Ukraine Parliament is banning the Greek, I mean, the Russian Orthodox. So I'm just curious. Like, I understand that Greece is part of the NATO, so the Greek leaders, they don't want to condemn or say anything. How about the people? How about the regular people, like Greek people? I mean, aren't you bothered by it? I mean, that the way they're doing this?
Depends
No?
who you ask. Depends who you ask. There are many Greeks who are bothered by this, and there are many Greeks that are indifferent about this, and there are many Greeks that don't feel close to the Greek Orthodox Church. It really depends who you ask
Okay.
in this question
Okay.
as far as Greece is concerned.
It just in general, I find it's interesting because even like the bombing of the Christian churches in Gaza, it seems like even the Western Christians and evangelicals, they none of them seems bothered by it. I mean, I don't hear a lot of anger or criticism, condemnation. I don't hear any of that. I thought the church, religion is a very important part of the Western culture, but I don't see the anger there. Is what do you say, Alexander?
No, I think that the days when religion was an important part of Western culture are fading. As it
Okay.
happens, and this is over the weekend, I was with a friend of mine who is very much an Anglican Christian, and she was extremely angry by the fact that the church, the Anglican Church, the Church of England, the official church in England, made no actual comment or criticism of the bombing of the churches in Gaza. And
Mhm.
she's actually written to the Archbishop who heads the Church of England about this. But the number of people in England who are interested in this is shrinking every day. So Christianity in some parts of Europe is still strong, but in most of Europe, and certainly in England, it is fading fast, and amongst young people, it is fading. Now, as a Christian myself, I find this very, very difficult, but that is the reality.
Okay. Alex, what do you say?
It's probably one of the reasons that the Europeans don't like Russia so much
Yeah.
because In Russia, there's a resurgence of religion and orthodoxy, while in the West, especially in Europe, it's
Mm.
something that is fading. So that's probably one of the reasons why the Europeans don't get along or don't want to get along with Russia so much.
Yeah.
And not all
I
of
mean,
Europe. I just want to say it's not all of Europe. Like
no.
Alexander said, not every country is seeing a Christian decline, but most are.
Yes.
Okay.
I think this is entirely right. I mean, if you're talking about England specifically, where we're not only seeing Christianity fade, but there is positive hostility to Christianity amongst a very large section of the community, including a large part of the intelligentsia. The fact that the Russians are Christianizing is for them seen as somehow a reactionary thing, and even in some ways, you know, something that that makes them angry in some strange way.
Okay. And then the next question I want to ask you, Alex, Greece is a big shipping country, right? The Greek shipping industry is really big. So what is the Red Sea crisis? What's going on there? What's impact does it have for Greece?
Huge. Almost all the, not I don't want to say almost all, but it seems like almost all the ships that are getting stopped or blocked or even seized or hit are Greek ships or under Greek management. You know, with the shipping industry, it's very difficult to understand where the ship comes from. They have different flags, they have different papers,
Yeah.
but if you drill down, you usually get to a Greek shipper. But I mean, it can be very difficult to find out where these ships are originating from, like who's the owner of the ships. But yeah, it's affecting the Greek shipping industry a lot.
And yeah, go ahead, Alex.
I mean, bear in mind, if we're talking about the Red Sea, ships that are heading towards the Suez Canal and the Mediterranean, they are almost by definition going to Europe. If you're talking about ships that are going, you know, in the other direction through the Suez Canal from into the Red Sea, again, almost by definition, they are coming from Europe, which is the dominant country, or rather nationality, running the European shipping industry. It is Greece. I mean, that the Greeks are enormously important in terms of shipping to and from Europe. If you're talking about the United States, shipping to the United States, that doesn't tend to go through the Red Sea. If China wants to send goods to the United States, it's not going to go through the Red Sea. It's going to go directly to the west coast of the United States. I used to work in the shipping industry long ago, and I can remember all of this very well from that time.
Now, I don't quite understand this because it certainly is affect Europe a lot, right, in terms of the trade. Now, my understanding, the Houthis, their only requirement is, okay, you can passing by here. We're not going to bother you if you promise you're not going to stop in Israel. That seems like their requirement. Why don't just every ship just saying that we're not stopping in Israel? Why do you make so much a big deal that you send the ships, you send the aircraft carrier, you send all this? That only make it worse, isn't it? You start bombing each other. That will make all the ships companies more nervous. You're not really improve the situation. That's what I'm thinking. What do you think?
Well, I think you're absolutely correct, but bear in mind that there is a very powerful group of people in the West who do not want to improve the situation. And if you're a neocon minded person in the United States, you want a crisis in the Red Sea because you want to attack the Houthis and you want to enlarge the war and expand it in some way. And of course, if you are also Westerners, if you're the Western governments who are very committed at the moment to supporting Israel, you don't want to allow a blockade of Israel to take place because, of course, that puts pressure on Israel. It's embarrassing for you, and you don't want to be seen basically abandoning Israel to the Houthis. So there are all of these dynamics in play, all at work at one and the same time. There were many ways to resolve this problem diplomatically. You're going to sort of cease fire in Gaza. You're going to work with the Houthis in exactly the same way that you said, in the way that you said. But that is not what Western governments want to do.
Alex, the Greek government must be bothered by this, right? Because it's affecting Greek in a profound way.
I'll just say that, there's what Alexander said is 100% spot on. And also keep in mind that a lot of the ships are heading towards Israel, and they are carrying certain things that perhaps would rightly bother the Houthis in Yemen and the other countries in the region. It's just the reality of the situation. They are going to Israel to deliver.
And for one country,
going.
So for that one country, they are willing to sacrifice everywhere else, the shipping industry in general. I just find it's fascinating. It's incredible. Israel is that important, I guess. Alex?
Israel is very important indeed, and of course, it's important to stress that Israel it's a central pillar of the whole neocon thing, that you want to have a strong Israel so that you control the Middle East through it. And there's also all kinds of emotional things is involved as well. But ultimately, it comes down to a question of Western power. You don't want to have a situation where people in the Middle East, the Houthis, the Iranians, whoever, are able to pick on one Western country, because Israel is perceived as a Western country, and are able to do it and pressure that country into doing something that the collective West doesn't really want to do and doesn't want to, be seen. It suggests a loss of Western control. And that is something that the Western governments do not want to allow under any circumstances.
Yeah. Alex, you want to add something?
No, it is the most important country.
Yeah. Okay. It's just the Chinese people are very practical. It's like a lot of discussion on the netizens are just like, well, why don't you just not, shipping to Israel? Then everything is back to normal. You can just do your business, But I guess it's never that easy, I guess. Okay. About that $300 billion. Alex, you talked about that on your show, that they are going to confiscate that money, right? And everybody's thinking it's a bad idea. But what the Chinese netizens and the analysts that they were saying is that it's almost like the Biden administration simply doesn't have any other options, because he didn't get money from the Congress to continue the war, and he can't really finish the war, stop the war before the election, November, and totally defeat, for Ukraine. He just cannot do that politically. And so he has to use that money. That's the only money he can find to continue the war. That's what the Chinese analysts are saying, even though the Biden administration himself knows that this is a bad idea. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, well, they could find, I think the Biden administration could find 5 to 10 billion under the sofa cushions. I think they'll be able to find that money, and I think Europe can also find another 5 or 10 billion as well, but it's not enough. And they really want to get the 61 billion from Congress. I don't think Congress is going to give them 61 billion, but I imagine Congress will give them something. Maybe they won't, though. I don't know. Maybe they're not going to give them anything coming towards the end of January, and we still don't have any movement. Biden can cut Ukraine loose. He still has a little bit of time to cut Ukraine loose. Take a media hit, for 1 month. He'll take a big hit in his popularity, and he'll be blamed and mocked, and his opponents will hit out at him. But it's better. If I was advising Biden, I would say you still have time. Rip the Band-Aid off before you have to face off against most likely Trump in the presidential campaign, because right now the Republicans, they still have the primary. So, he still has about a month or two window perhaps to just release Ukraine, but he can't because he's emotionally involved. He's financially, emotionally, everyone is very much tied into Project Ukraine. And the overthrow, the regime change of Russia. I mean, they're heavily invested in this. So they're going to try to confiscate that 300 billion. They're trying everything they can think of to steal it, but everyone's warning them. Everyone is warning them, don't do it. I'm tending to believe that perhaps the threat of confiscating the 300 billion and the threat of destroying the U.S. financial system may even be some sort of elaborate bluff to the House. Maybe the Biden administration, maybe Jake Sullivan is saying, if you guys don't give us the 61 billion, we have no other choice but to destroy the U.S. financial system by going after the 300 billion. I mean, who knows what games they're playing, but this is not how you win wars. Not how you win wars. That's the bottom line.
Can I just say, I completely agree with that. And I'm going to add something to what Alex has said. If I was advising Biden, I would say in your political interests, as well as the national security interests of the United States, just cut Ukraine loose. I mean, don't do this thing. This is the most stupid thing you could possibly do. Funding the war through stolen money, because you're going to lose the war anyway. It's highly likely you will lose it this year. So you're only going to make your situation worse. Take the hit, accept the fact that the war is lost, blame the Republicans, say it's all their fault, and move on. And the American people don't like the war in Ukraine anyway. So if the war is gone, you've got one less problem on your hands as you move towards the election in November. That, it seems to me, is the actual, obvious, correct thing to do. Now, a John F. Kennedy would have done that. A Richard Nixon would have done that. Exactly as Alex said, Biden is far too emotionally, financially, corruptly involved in Ukraine to be able to walk away.
Yeah, and the people in netizens, and they're saying that's so unfortunate for Ukraine because they're just fighting there, right? They're the people who are dying, and they're doing that for Biden, emotionally or politically, but they're doing it for Biden pretty much, So, okay. Now the latest is that Britain signed some kind of a security pact with Ukraine. What's that about?
It's about Britain pretending that it's great power. Prime Minister Sunak's efforts to again shore up support within the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party is heading for a landslide collapse coming the election. So Sunak's position is already insecure. And it's also about the British government providing some reassurance to its military and security establishment that the government is still active, that it's still playing an important role, that it's still rallying support in Europe to the cause of Ukraine, in which Britain has disastrously overinvested by agreeing a security pact like this. It is not worth the paper it is written on. Everybody knows this. Britain, a few weeks ago, said that they were going to supply 2 minesweepers to Ukraine. They did find these minesweepers. They were sent towards Ukraine. The Turkish government wouldn't let them pass into the Black Sea because that violated the treaty that regulates the Dardanelles. It subsequently turned out that the British government knew that would happen, but they did it anyway because it was, good, PR to be seen to be standing up for Ukraine. And in political terms, it works to the current advantage of Rishi Sunak. It does not work to the advantage of Britain.
What do you
or
say, Alex?
Ukraine.
Yeah. Now, there are some other European countries that are going to follow suit or something, Alex?
Any security pact they sign with Ukraine is just It's nothing different than what they're already doing right now in Ukraine. There's a security agreement to provide weapons and money. There's nothing different with what they're doing now. There's no way that there's going to be a European there's going to be any country, the UK or a country in Europe or the United States, that's going to decide an agreement which says that, if Ukraine is attacked by any other country, we're 100% compelled to declare war on that country. I mean, it's not going to happen. This is all optics. It's all optics. And my take on Sunak is that, and the British government, that they're being very stupid because they're angering much of the global South, and they're overextending. They're involved in Yemen. They're involved with conflict in the Middle East. They're involved with Russia. They're talking about the Asia Pacific. They're overextending, and this is not going to turn out well for them.
So it's fair to say it's optics, right? So there is not going to be any substance to it, that they're not going to do anything different than what they're doing right now, right? So
Britain is not in a position to do anything more than what it has done. And we can give the Ukrainians money. We can give them £2.5 billion, which is what we've done. Bear in mind, Britain is in an economic recession, essentially. Living standards here are falling. This is not a popular move amongst most British people at a time when, we see so much of our country, in a bad condition. But if we are talking about military support, which is what really matters at the present time, we have 40 tanks in our army. We've had to scrap 2 of our warships because we can't pay sailors to man them. I mean, this is all over the media here. We have no more self-propelled guns, and we've run out of shells. So, this is fantasy politics. It has no reality to it. What it is doing, in fact, is exposing to the world, firstly, that our political leaders are completely out of touch with reality. That's obvious. But also how weak militarily, in real military terms, Britain has become. I mean, just think, British Army is down to 20,000 men. British Army has 40 tanks, 40 operational tanks. I mean, when the Chinese military conducts parades, how many more tanks than that does the Chinese military show on its parades?
I'll let you go. I have one last question. I really want to hear both of you. If I can use, instead of using a word, I would use a prefix to describe 2023, which is the DE, the de-dollarization, the de-risking, the also like a platform, a de-risking and the decoupling, right? And then even like a social media, there's a de-platform, monetization. There's all kinds of D's going on, right? Alex, I think you talked about that in your show, one of your show. You talk about that instead of, from the U.S. perspective, the hegemony perspective, since it's getting harder and harder for the United States to continue to be this dominant force. So maybe their plan B, their plan now is to hold on to the so-called allies, right? So it's almost like you have 2 systems that they're protecting, like the SWIFT will be like the Western countries and whoever they can get on. And then in the meantime, the BRICS and everybody is building another system. So that's to me like a de-globalization. So that seems like what's going on. That to me, like it's accelerated in 2023. Okay, something was going on before that, but 2023 seems like accelerated. And now I think in 2024 probably will continue with that. I mean, is that where we're heading to?
Yeah, actually, we did a lot of shows on this even before the conflict in Ukraine broke out, which was that the U.S. can look to consolidate its power over what is the collective Western Europe, Canada, Australia, the Five Eyes. That was the strategy that the U.S. under Biden was working towards, and the conflict in Ukraine, I just think, accelerated that. and they realize that they're not going to be a global power anymore. And I don't know if they've realized that, but maybe deep down inside they have an understanding of this, and so yeah, they're going to definitely consolidate their hold on especially Europe. But Europe is willingly going along with this as well. So Germany didn't have to deindustrialize, but it willingly chose to deindustrialize. So they're making it very easy for the U.S. to create this new Cold War system, which is essentially where we're heading towards. The big difference is that in this Cold War, countries of the global South and of the East are going to be the more powerful and more dominant countries than the countries of the West, and probably are going to be dare I say, the freer countries. Maybe. I mean, a lot of people will probably take issue with what I'm saying, but I've spent quite a lot of time in the global South, and I've spent time in Russia, and I don't know. I think they'll probably be the more free places to live. Maybe that's just a guess, but that's where I see it going.
I agree with all of that. If I may say, I don't know. Do you want to ask me a question?
Yeah, I just want to see your opinion about this. Do you think everything is going back, kind of like rolling back of the globalization in general? That's what is going on, right?
I think this is completely correct. I think this is going to accelerate. I mean, it did accelerate markedly in 2023, and it is going to continue in 2024. To some extent, the Western governments have been hoping that India would be providing the brake. And again, just to say, telephone call 2 days ago between Putin and Prime Minister Modi of India. And Prime Minister Modi told Putin, it's there in the call, you can see it in the readouts, that India will fully support all the measures that Russia is going to take as BRICS chair. So Russia has its goals and objectives as BRICS chair, and we know what they are. They are all centering on this process of de-dollarization and building up alternative trade systems. And India is going to support that. So it's not going to work. The Indians can see that the sun is rising eastwards. I mean, they're going to work. They're going to be absolutely careful that they are part of this. And coming to the point that Alex was making, that we are going to see a bifurcation, we are going to see a division, but it is the other side, the BRICS side, that is going to be the stronger one. And it's not difficult to understand. I've just been looking at economic figures. We've just had growth figures for both China and Russia, but the Chinese ones, in some ways, are the most interesting, because China's share of global manufacturing, I'm talking about its share, I'm not just talking about its absolute increases. The share has increased. China is producing more of everything, and its share of what it's producing is growing. And all of the other big producer countries, India, Russia, the global South countries, the countries that are involved in commodities, in oil, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Iran, they're all signing up to be part of this. So which are the countries, therefore, that dominate world trade? They're going to be the ones that are going to be working with the BRICS to set up this global system. The one that is going to be left, the Western one, is going to be not just the smaller one, it's going to be the fading one. It's the other system that will eventually replace the Western one. And this points again to the colossal mistake Western governments have made, because the fact that the global trade and financial system was unified, that we had a single system of global trade, gave the West more weight in global affairs than measured in terms of actual economic activity. They deserved. They had this they were at the center of the system of world trade because it was a legacy system based on the fact that, 50, 60, 70 years ago, they were the rich countries. And they should have understood that this is a legacy system and that they needed to preserve it. Instead, through sanctions wars, through breaking up the World Wide Web, which was, the internet, but through all of this, they have left themselves with a system that is not just broken, but is diminishing, and which will highlight and accelerate their weakening.
I have one more question I have to ask. So, what do you think the likelihood of a World War III? Because now the Biden administration always talking about the de-escalation, but their action doesn't add up. They are not really trying to stop Israel, and they're sending carriers to Asia Pacific, and the Ukraine war they don't really want to stop. They want it to continue. Now, reminds me like World War One, World War Two, they don't just overnight happen. It's like a small conflict, keep on going, right? And then you spill over, etc., etc. And then one day it become a world war. So is this something that you worry about? Do you think, is it total under control, or it can have the risk of spill over and then just full-blown World War III? Is that a real chance for that?
There is a chance. I don't personally think it's going to happen. I think that there are still enough controls, and even within the United States. I think that even within a government as dysfunctional as the American government has become, there are still enough people who have enough grasp of reality to grasp how incredibly dangerous that would be. But I have to say, we are closer to that point than one feels comfortable with, to put it mildly. A good friend of both of ours, Garland Nixon, actually wrote to me. This is about 2 years ago, and this is about actually the confrontation with China. And he was saying that this administration that we have now is the most dangerous administration the United States has ever had. Because there is no one fully in control, and there are some very, very dangerous people inside it who almost do want to see some kind of a big smash. And some of them are now openly talking about conflicts with China and conflicts with Iran and conflicts with Russia and all of this. And, ultimately, one likes to believe and hopes that the fail-safes are still there, that the controls are still there, that the Pentagon will say, in the end, we're not going to go here. It's too dangerous. But one can never be completely sure. So I think we'll come through. And I think, by the way, if we do come through, if we're able to get through the next couple of years, then we'll be in a much safer place. I think this is, a phase, a very dangerous phase, when a country senses that things are slipping out of its control, and its leaders especially sense that, and they react in this manner. But so if we get through, we'll be in a safer place, and I think we will get through. But I'm not going to pretend that there aren't times when I do get worried.
Alex, what is your view, your assessment?
No, I agree. I think we'll get through, but I don't think we'll survive another 4 years of Biden. That's my own opinion. I just don't think we'll be able to make it with another Biden administration. I think everything accelerated to a very dangerous place under his first term. So a second term of Biden, I think, would be disastrous for the United States and possibly for the world. It doesn't mean we're going to go into a World War III, but it will continue to remain a very dangerous world if he wins re-election.
And if Biden doesn't last the next 4 years, Kamala Harris, I'm not sure is better. The more I learn about her, the more unsettled I am, to be honest.
I think you share the view. of the whole of humanity. Actually, I mean, I've not seen a single person. I cannot come across a single person who yearns for President Kamala Harris. I have to say that. But whatever. The whole administration is very, very dangerous. And I mean, the other thing that they're achieving is an extreme level of polarization in the United States. I mean, Biden is now saying that the entire future of democracy basically depends on his re-election, which is, I mean, when a president talks like that and speaks about his opponents and the way that this administration and its followers in the media are talking, that's very dangerous for a country. I mean, it basically justifies the most extreme methods, and put aside the worry about World War III. I mean, conflict in the United States, the dangers of it, I would say now, are becoming dangerously high.